Hi everyone! Let's make a present cookie together. So you need some green outline icing. And outline basically just means my thicker icing. So there's not as much water put into this icing and it holds its shape. And this is going to be our border to keep all our flood icing in. So the looser icing won't be running off our cookie because we'll have a nice border here. And then we're going to go in with our flood icing. Usually I like to let that border dry for a few minutes. It dries pretty quick. It doesn't have to be, super dry, but a few minutes usually gets it dry enough. So I usually would outline all my cookies and come back and flood them. And then we do this part. And the reason I let it dry for a few minutes, it just holds its shape much better. Then it just doesn't get pushed around by that flood. This is kind of a smaller cookie, so it doesn't take much to go around. I didn't flood the whole cookie. You see there's little gaps there. And the reason being is we're going to put some white icing into this green icing before it dries. So we're going to do this wet on wet technique. And when I put the white icing in, I don't want it to overfill that cookie, because sometimes what happens is you get too much icing and it kind of floods over the border that we made. So you're going to go in with your flood consistency. So this is the same consistency as the green that we just put in the middle. And I'm just doing a little dot. So a little pressure on my bag. This is loose icing, so it's kind of more watery than, the outline consistency we used at first. So you don't need a lot of pressure because it comes out fast. You can see it's already coming out before I even get, close to the icing. So I just need a little pressure to get a dollop of icing there. And what happens is this icing is melting into the green icing. So this is our wet on wet technique. And what happens is this dries a nice flat smooth surface. So instead of the white dots being on top of the green icing, it's kind of right into the icing. And that's why I didn't want to flood too much, because that icing adds more to the cookie and can sometimes spill over. So once we let that layer crust over and dry a bit, we can do our details. So I'm using my red outline consistency. So I'm just going to pipe across and down the cookie. I'm just going to pipe down and across the cookie. So this will be our ribbon going around our present. I'm just making the outlines here. Anytime I have a longer line, I lift up my bag and it'll give me a nice, smooth, straight line. And anytime you need to, you can always go in with your scribe and fix any mistakes you've got. And then with the same consistency, I'm going to do this squiggly line. And the reason for this is in narrow parts or that you're filling in with your flood icing, what happens is the icing caves in on itself, or there ends up being drying with a hole inside of it, and that's kind of a crater. That's what we call it in the cookie world. And so this thicker icing inside, it kind of supports the icing that we're putting on top. So I squiggle it with my outline, then right away I go in and flood. And this just supports it, gives a little extra layer down there, so if it ends up trying to cave in on itself, this will just help prop it up. So I'm just flooding really slowly, very light pressure. Again, this is my flood icing, so it's already kind of flowing out of my bag by itself without any pressure. So if I squeeze the bag really hard, a lot of icing is going to come out. So I'm going a little bit slower, lighter pressure, just to control my icing as much as possible. And then we're going to let this dry because we're going to do another layer on top. So again, it doesn't have to fully dry, but crust it over to be able to do the next layer. You can use a fan or a dehydrator in a very low setting if you have one to speed up the process. If not, just let them air dry. It does take maybe an hour or two. And now you can see the colors changed a little bit, has dried. So we're going to go in and do our ribbon kind of bow part of the cookie. So here I'm just using my outline consistency. Sometimes when I have small details and not too large of an area, I'll use my outline because it's thicker and it's just easier to work with. For me to outline this and then go ahead and fill it in, it's so small that it's not gonna hold up well. It might crater. It's just much easier to do this all with outline. Gives me a nice puffy finish. It's nice and thick. And then the key when you're doing details like this with outline consistency, because it is thicker icing, you have to kind of fill it up more. So you see I'm doing a general outline of a triangle, and then I'm going in there and squeezing hard and filling that up nice and, you know, full of icing. And that way when I go in with my scribe, it's really easy to smooth out. You can see if I don't go in with my scribe, it kind of sits there. It doesn't melt together. But as soon as I work it a bit with my scribe, it comes. Now again, if you're icing, if you've made your outline super, super thick, a lot of powdered sugar in there, and it's not moving, then it's because your icing is a bit too thick. So I like to have my outline not too thick, but you know, you don't want it too thin either. You want it to hold its shape, but have a little bit of flexibility like this. So when you're doing these kind of details, you can just do it all with one icing and have this nice look and easy finish to do. So again, you can see it's holding its shape until I get in there with my scribe, and I'm really giving it a good jiggle in there, trying to smooth it out as much as possible. And then we're going to let this dry a little bit as well. And then we're going to do the dot in the middle. So again, with my outline consistency, just going to fill that area up and go in with my scribe and smooth it out. And that's it. You got a lovely present cookie you can give away as a present. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next Christmas video. Happy baking!